Yo, it's good. It's your man, 100 Grand Ross with The Rock Never Stops. The big question on my mind is, can Miles Bridges make a return and fall in line? You see, it's one thing for a player to leave for a year because of external circumstances. We all know his ordeal, the things that he went through this past year with the charges of domestic violence. I believe he pled no contest. He spent a year out from playing basketball, hopefully getting his life together, anger management, getting his marriage and relationship together, his family together. I'm wishing him all the best. But it's another thing to return, and the landscape of your team, of your workplace has changed drastically. You see, the Charlotte Hornets brought in Steve Clifford. Steve Clifford is no James Borrego. He's no coach who is going to allow for shortcuts, who's going to sit by while guys are undisciplined, don't play defense, struggle to execute, play inefficient basketball. He is somewhat of an old school coach with a decent amount of X's and O's, who was used to getting his teams into the playoffs. Even if they didn't go far in the playoffs, he got teams into the playoffs that weren't very spectacular. And I'm talking about the Orlando Magic with Nikola Vucevic, Evan Fournier, right, Jonathan Isaac, right, Terrence Ross, guys who are good players, but really had no business really being in the playoffs. And they would have an okay showing when they got there. All that's to say is this coach is going to have a different standard of what he demands of his players. On top of that, the team is drafting Scoot Henderson. I don't think there's any way that they don't. I think he's on a completely different level than Brandon Miller. I think his NBA readiness is on another level in terms of physicalness. Playing an NBA style, knowing that it'll translate, playing in the G League. Scoot Henderson and LaMelo Ball in the backcourt is going to shift the hierarchy of offense. It's going to shift the responsibilities on defense. You have to realize that before Miles Bridges was out this past year, he was the number one, number two scoring option on his team. Primary scoring option, which means that it would be understandable why you did not play defense to a certain level, why you missed certain rotations, why you took certain shots that maybe wasn't the best shot, but you know what? It's okay. We're trying to get you going. You're our guy. On top of that, we need you. We need you to get it going, and we're also still committed to developing you, trying to see just how good you can be. Because we're not the playoff team yet. We're still a team figuring itself out. But since he's left, Mark Williams has ascended. He looks like a bigger version of Clint Capella. On top of that, you have LaMelo Ball, another year of an extremely high level of play. Gordon Hayward looks to be figuring out his health. You have the return of Cody Martin, who's able to now slide in as a two-way wing. And we saw what his brother's doing in Miami. Charlotte has to be itching to get him back on the court. And all of a sudden, you begin to see, well, where does Miles Bridges fit in? He's likely no longer going to be the number one, number two scoring option. P.J. Washington will probably slide back more into his defensive role, spreading the court, kind of a 3-and-D forward. Right, doing a lot of the utility things instead of trying to be a primary scoring option. You still got Gordon Hayward, who looked solid enough last season. You got Terry Rozier, likely moving to the bench in a 6-man role, next to Dennis Smith Jr. Nice offensive-defensive backcourt pairing off the bench, along with Cody Martin, along with J.T. Thor, who started to look more and more consistent at 6'10", forward with a nice skill set and showing the ability to shoot from distance. Nick Richards even looked better as well. So you begin to see, where is Miles Bridges fitting in? You're not going to be the number one scorer on this team. I don't necessarily think when I watched the last season he played, he never looked like a go-to scorer. He reminded me a lot of Richard Jefferson playing alongside Jason Kidd for the New Jersey Nets, if you all remember back in the day. A great athlete, but fed mostly offensively off of the playmaking from his point guard. At the time, Richard Jefferson had Jason Kidd, one of the great, all-time great playmaking, facilitating point guards who makes guys look better. Because you saw once Richard Jefferson left, he never reached those same offensive peaks. Miles Bridges is very similar. I don't see him as a go-to scorer. We saw when they got into the play-in, a lot of his game was ineffective. He was unable to elevate his offensive play and his skill set to be able to score in the play and to get his team into the playoffs. And he had plenty of chances. Because likely his game is not suited as a primary scoring option. Likely what his game is more suited for is that tertiary offensive option. The fourth option, probably on a championship team, on a high playoff level team. He's somebody that, if he could be consistent with knocking down threes, getting out in transition, playing off the ball, moving off the ball, backdoor cuts, lobs, things of that nature, playing some small ball, power forward, and some small forward, playing really tough physical brand of defense on the perimeter, that, I believe, is his future. But here's the thing. Can he accept that? And I want to give you guys a very similar example. Dillon Brooks for the Memphis Grizzlies. He was ascending on his team before injuries hit. And around the time of his injuries, they drafted Ja Morant. And then they drafted Triple J, Jaren Jackson Jr. And by the time that he found his health again, he found himself returning to a team that had shifted in terms of how they needed to use him. He was still a great defender, but he still saw himself as this offensive primary option, and he was never able to accept that that's not who he is. And over the past couple of seasons, it looked worse and worse and worse, with him trying to play a brand of basketball that did not fit the needs of his team, that allowed them to win and play at a high level. And as a result, he's finding himself on the outs. His team made it clear this offseason, after they lost to the Los Angeles Lakers, he would not be coming back. Now you have Miles Bridges. We know you've had the off-court issues. And it's an opportunity for you to come back and redeem yourself. But the question is, can you fall in line? You will have a new role. You will find your points in different ways. You'll be asked to do things you maybe weren't asked to do before. You'll be asked to play better defense by Steve Clifford. You'll be asked to consistently get out in transition and be one of the first guys to get back on transition defense. To hit the boards hard. To play off the ball. Take quality shots that allow you to be efficient. And potentially even playing off the bench behind somebody like Gordon Hayward, who is far more skilled. Now, this is going to be hard for a guy who thought he was about to get close to a max contract, who before this past season probably saw himself ascending into potential all-star stardom. But now the landscape has changed. His environment is new. And the question remains, can he fall in line? I want to know what you all think. Holler at me in the comment section. Do you think he can? Do you think he will? And what do you think will happen if he can't? Holler at me in the comment section. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button for me. Hit subscribe and the bell for notifications. And I'm going to get at y'all next time. Peace.